So, glasses gone. I have no idea. Must have left them in the office or somewhere. Left them somewhere. Structure of your company. This is I suppose, a boring subject, but it's an important subject. More important than you can think. And if I'm dealing with companies that are asking for help, I would say 50% of the companies that are in difficulties because they got their basic structure wrong. Now that's a hell of a percentage. And there are different things. There's the legal structure, and then there's the business structure, the way you organize your business. So these are important, two sides of that whole coin. Let's deal with the business structure first. Well, every business is different, so there's no one magic answer, oh, this is how you do it. The first thing that people assume when they're structuring their business is they say, I found a gap in the market. Well, maybe you found a perceived gap in the market, but in reality there's no market. Just a thought. I thought that there ought to be a volume control for surround sound, and I discovered nobody really wanted one. So my idea of creating a simple volume control and putting it in a sexy box was a non-starter. And your great idea may be a solution looking for a problem. So all these things have to be looked at carefully. And that's going back to my other video about doing your market survey. Find out if there's a market in the first place. Another structure that goes horribly, horribly, horribly wrong is the hobby that becomes the business. Beware the hobby that eats. The number of times I've found people saying, well, we could buy a sailing boat, a motor sailor, and we could then rent it out, or people could invite people in. It would be like a hobby, but it would be a hobby that we could help to pay for our motor sailing boat. And of course, the reality is they're up against professional outfits that build and outfit their own boats and have tons of boats, and they are Deirdre and Henry, the picture of them looking middle-aged and yucky in the back of some yachting magazine, and you can sail the Adriatic with Deirdre and Henry. And they discover that nobody wants to sail the Adriatic with Deirdre and Henry, and it all turns a bit sort of blur. Timing belongs in your structure as well. The markets all do this. They all have ups and downs, and then they go up, and then they go down again. Sometimes the ups are far too high, and then that leads to a big down. And then it's important to enter the market, if you can, here, as it's going up. Somewhere in the upswing is where you should be trying to get in, because all these people are swimming naked down here. Remember what Warren Buffett said about companies that run out of money. When the tide goes out, we get to see who's been swimming naked. So they're going to go out of business, and you can get in. Now, there has to be a demand. You have to have a unique selling point, and you have to understand the market. There are three things: understand the market, a good unique selling point, and there has to be a demand for what you want to sell. So beware not knowing enough to realize that you don't know enough. It's called the Dunning-Kruger syndrome. Not knowing enough to realize you don't know enough. Really find out about your market you're entering. So you need you have an edge, a unique selling point, an extra star quality that you can use to bring customers to you. And there has to be a built-up, pent-up demand for what you have to offer, so that even if you didn't do too much marketing, as soon as people find out that you've got this thing that they would love to have, it turns into pounds and dollars and euros. So, also in your financial business structure is, where's the money coming from? And of course, we all know you either have it or you borrow it. They're the two possibilities. Or you don't need any because it's something you do without money. Simple service, dog walking, whatever. And if you're borrowing it, they're banks, they're investors, and of course, they're the three F's: fools, family, and friends. If you borrow it from a bank, of course, the terms of repaying that money will be very, very clear, and they'll want some collateral. So that will be your house, car, whatever. But if you get the money from an investor, you've got a small business, you want to grow the business, you bring the investor in, he buys 30% of the company. He's doing that in the hope that he can help you to grow and then sell the 30%. In other words, he needs an exit strategy. Now we come to the legal side of things. If you're in the music business, you will be aware of the countless times that rock bands or other music combinations break up, and it all turns sour because they just got together and started playing, did pub gigs, got bigger and bigger, got a record deal, whatever they did, or nowadays you go indie, and you start selling records, you do get an agent, and so it goes on and on and on. And then of the 4, 5, 6 people involved, one person leaves. And you get that letter from a lawyer pointing out that the business, the band, has now closed. It's finished. That's because, without realizing it, you entered a partnership. If you're doing business with somebody, whether it's a rock band, a shop, father and son funeral parlour, if you don't come to some sort of an agreement with one another, then you are de facto subject to the Partnership Act of 1870 in the UK, or in the Uniform Partnership Act of 1914 in the United States, revised 1997. Oh God, I really ought to get a life. Now, the Partnership Act of 1870 is one of the simplest, most beautiful, most elegant pieces of legislation you'll ever find anywhere. You could fit it on 2 sheets of A4 easily. Print it small and it'll go on 1 sheet. Simply put, you are separately and severally and individually responsible for each other in a partnership. So it's a very, very dangerous kind of legal formation. I always advise people, whatever you do, never ever enter a partnership. Form a limited company, have senior shareholders, junior shareholders, voting shares, non-voting shares, whatever. Structure the business, or just have a band leader or a workshop owner or whatever, and he employs the others. But don't stand around there going, I will just play music together, or we'll just fix cars together. Not a good idea, because the moment somebody leaves, or if somebody buys a van for the business or a new guitar stack or something, then I'm afraid everybody severally is responsible for that debt. Also, the other dangerous one is the single trader or sole trader. You are responsible with everything you have, your wife, your children, your house. They'll take it away. You'll take the wife and kids away. No, they won't, but they will take they can take the house easily if you're a sole trader. So limited is better. And you can wrap a limited inside a limited and put a limit. And of course, there are other things like limited liability partnerships and so on. So all sorts of little structures you can go with. And in Germany, of course, we have the wonderfully convoluted GmbH und Co. KG, which is a sort of a limited part, GmbH, Gesellschaft mit beschränkter Haftung, society with limited liability. And that's inside a Kommanditgesellschaft, and they have a company added onto it. And so on, a wonderful, which is like a limited liability partnership. And it's just wonderful protective layers in case things go pear-shaped. So these layers give you extra protection. But beware too much protection or allowing a partnership or a limited company to go belly up and just forming a new, oh, we'll phoenix that and to hell with our debts. Because people like me, careful people, sensible people, perform due diligence. And of course, they see straight away that you've just gone belly up and you phoenixed the company. I don't think we trust them. Whatever you have, partnership, shareholders, always get a shareholders agreement or a partnership agreement. Don't just enter into business with people and hope it'll all go all right. Make sure you have a watertight agreement. If in doubt, lawyer up, get a lawyer to a few £100, and you've got that security of knowing exactly what you want. Before you go to a lawyer, though, always write down in bullet point form what it is you want in your agreement. And he will turn that, he or she will turn that into a proper shareholders or partnership or limited liability partnership or whatever it is, agreement that you all sign and everybody has a copy with everybody else's signature on it. Now, I know a company, and this is my little story of warning. I know a company that because they had the wrong legal structure, simple limited liability. It was a German company, so it was a Gesellschaft mit beschränkter Haftung, a GmbH, limited liability. They were buying chips in via an import agency in Switzerland, and unbeknownst to them, the Swiss agency for over a year was not paying any import duty on those chips that were coming in from China and elsewhere. And unbeknownst to them, the liability for that import duty travelled with the chip. Ouch. The import agency went, disappeared, vaporised, gone. Bermuda, wherever, disappeared in the Bermuda Triangle, whatever. So the tax man came to them and with one telephone call put them out of business. 60 million marks. This was back in the 90s. 60 million marks. About 25 million pounds, something like that. They were a small computer making company. That's all. They just disappeared. Literally, not from one day to the next, from 1 minute to the next, with one telephone call, they had become insolvent. So now you can see how important it is to have the right structure to protect yourself against every possible little thing like that, particularly if you're doing something as commercially, tax implication-wise, dangerous as importing chips, which at the time had a very large import duty tariff on them.